Hello and good day, Mike Adcock with an update on the Western Pacific here. Do have two systems we're tracking. Tropical Depression Wilma right now in the central Philippines. This is number 30W from JTWC. We're also going to be looking later on at Tropical Storm Haiyan there in Micronesia. Alright, first up on Wilma though, at 9 Zulu, this system was about 55 kilometers east-southeast of Tagbilaran City, there in southwestern Bohol Island, or about 110 kilometers east of Dumaguete City in Negros Oriental. This system is continuing to move off to the west at 10 knots, winds 30 knots, gusting to 45, and the pressure 1,006 hectopascal. At the same time, from this update, Pagasa also issued their final advisory on Wilma, their third. Because they have downgraded it to a low pressure area, they have dropped all of the public storm warning signals. So right now there are currently no signals out, of course, for storm information specific to your area. Continue to monitor the forecasts and warnings issued by your local meteorological agency. And also take a look here on satellite. We're seeing some slow development. Of course, with this system crossing over the Visayas, it is having a harder time to get itself together. But right now, looking at about a 3/10 banding, which would get us to about a T2.0 on the Dvorak scale. Pulling out on the wide Western Pacific shot, kind of get an idea of what's going on with both of these systems. Do have an area of high pressure here in the Western Pacific. Across the south, winds out of the east. So here, first Tropical Storm Haiyan, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, also connected to the Intertropical Convergence Zone, is Wilma crossing over the Visayas right now. Here is a tropical storm, or the remnants of Kurosa that are there in the South China Sea. Do have moisture associated with that streaming up around the northwestern periphery of the subtropical high. This is associated with a cold front that's exiting to the east of Japan, and you can see this all playing out on the surface analysis from JMA. Here's our cold front, high pressure, pretty much in dominance. You're seeing ridging extending off from the Central Pacific, some ridging extending from China. Do have an area of high pressure, not really depicted here, but we're seeing that depicted on satellite just south of Japan. And that's helping to usher these tropical storms off toward the west, toward the Philippines, and then later on into the South China Sea and into China. Alright, again, looking at Wilma, current analysis, or current position just south of Bohol, continuing off toward the west. So right now, southern Cebu, southern Negros, right now they're going to be dealing with this tonight into tomorrow morning. The track right now has it going right over Dumaguete City. This will then go off, and right now looking at late Tuesday into Wednesday morning, affecting Palawan before emerging in the South China Sea. And that pretty much lines up with Pagasa forecast. Of course, remember I said earlier, Pagasa has issued their final advisory. They're going to continue to monitor it if it regenerates, at least according to what they're looking at, into a tropical depression. But right now they're calling it a low pressure area. So with that, not looking at any storm warning signals. And then Joint Typhoon Warning Center is also warning on it. A little bit lighter winds, 25 knots, gusting to 35. They do expect some slow intensification. Not really in the near term. Of course, it's going to be dealing with the Visayas Islands. But once it emerges to the west of Palawan, expecting this to develop into a moderate tropical storm. One thing of note, a little bit further north in the track, this actually takes it... the bottom line of it is where you analyze it. JTWC, or correction, JMA as well as Pagasa have it just south of Bohol, whereas JTWC has it off towards southern Leyte. And that difference is, pretty significant in terms of the track. It's, whereas the other two sites have a track right over Dumaguete, this would be quite a bit further north, affecting Cebu quite a bit more. And then, whether it's the track going over Puerto Princesa or the northern part of Palawan. So we'll see how that projects out. Here is the official, or this is the model guidance rather, and you can see there is a little bit of divergence on where it makes landfall in Palawan. All of these, though, quite a bit further south than what the current warning centers are talking about. But the bottom line is the northern Mindanao, southern Visayas will continue to monitor the progress of this storm, Palawan as well, and then southern Vietnam as we get in next few days, Cambodia, Thailand, as the system continues making a westward track. In terms of intensity, again, looking at this become a moderate tropical storm, may see it become a severe tropical storm in terms of JMA, but after that it just runs out of time before landfall there in Vietnam and then weakens substantially. Okay, looking at the upper level winds, again, here's our area of high pressure off to the north, allowing this easterly flow to continue. So that's going to continue to push both systems off to the west. Still seeing quite a bit of strong winds aloft, especially with the polar front jet. And you can actually see that reflecting down in the atmosphere as low as about 600 millibars. Again, westerly flow, easterly flow carrying these two systems off to the west here in the low levels. Looking at shear, all the shears focused up towards Japan with the jet stream. Across the south, though, very light winds, so this is going to help promote intensification. We'll see that with Wilma. Not seeing a whole lot, and that's just because of timeliness. Currently land interaction, and then just short time window for it to intensify before it hits Vietnam. Haiyan, on the other hand, does have a little bit more time to work with. Here's our plots from 6 Zulu. You can see some isolated showers, a lot of convection, and you saw that on the satellite loop there. But a lot of the showers right now focus towards northern or northeastern Mindanao, southern Leyte, and those will continue to track off to the west. Taking a look at a couple of, or a handful of sites right now. Surigao, right now, calm winds out there. Actually, all these sites are relatively fair, just a little bit of haze out there. Pananawan, really the worst out of the sites there. Right now they're observing some thunderstorms, but still high pressure, 1006 hectopascal, which is pretty much in line with what we're seeing from JMA. Tagbilaran, just hazy conditions there, light winds. All these sites, fair conditions really by and large. And even Dumaguete City, just cloudy conditions there with 1007 for our pressure. All right, now focusing to the long-term threat, this is going to be Tropical Storm Haiyan. Right now near Chuuk, matter of fact, looking at the loop here, about 295 kilometers west-southwest of Chuuk, or 1,300 kilometers roughly east-southeast of Yap. It's moving off to the west at about 16 knots. Winds currently 35, gusting to 50,000 for our pressure. Do have some warnings out. This is from the National Weather Service office in Guam. Tropical storm warning remains in effect for Puluwat in Chuuk State and for Satawal in Yap State. This is going to, now in addition to that, we do have a tropical storm watch for Ulul in Chuuk State, and we'll just continue to monitor that. The advisories for Chuuk should be dropping off in by the next advisory. We'll continue to monitor Yap, though, as they continue to remain in that tropical storm warning. All right. So, oh, actually, I do want to go back here to the satellite loop here. One thing I did want to point out, in addition to our warnings, pretty good banding with this one, looking at about 6/10, so that's yielding a T3.0 on the Dvorak. Actually looking a little bit later, a little bit better now. The 6/10 came at 9 Zulu, so I would imagine by 12 Zulu this would be a little bit stronger. We should see continued strengthening with this system. That matches up pretty well with the official forecast. Again, not a whole lot of difference with what's going on in the Western Pacific from what we talked about with Wilma, just being that it's developing a little bit further off to the east. It allows, with the intensification, it doesn't get hung up in the ITCZ like Wilma did. Wilma is going to continue to move off because she is pretty weak, whereas Haiyan, okay, get a little bit of strength. The beta advection starts to play a factor. You get a little bit further northern track with this. So right now looking at northern Visayas and southern Luzon to be the area of concern. Alright, again, not a whole lot of difference here from what we're talking about with JMA. Again, strong area of high pressure off to the north, keeping it moving in a relatively western track. Here's the JMA forecast though. Right now looking at impacts for Yap. You can see, here we go. Yap Island is right there. Here's Palau. And then this is going to continue to make its progress toward the Philippines. Right now, here is the National Weather Service track. Again, pretty much in line with what you're seeing there. Effects for Yap, some of the nearby islands should stay off to the north of Palau, although they could see some gusty winds with this system. And here's the JTWC forecast. Again, right now we're looking at significant impacts for Yap. You saw that on the last chart here with typhoon force winds nearby. Right now, as it gets close to Yap, you're looking at a typhoon that's going to be about 100 knots sustained winds. And that's going to continue. Not saying that Yap will see that, although they are on the worst side of the system, at least based on this track. So Yap will definitely have to continue to monitor the progress. May see typhoon warnings issued for them. And then later on, we're still looking at a significant typhoon making landfall in the northern Visayas, southern Luzon area. Right now looking, at least according to JTWC's forecast, about 120 knots. So definitely, you know, with the amount of shear, the tracks, everything lining up, this does look to be a significant event for the Central Philippines. Of course, we've seen how these tracks pan out, so this may be on the conservative side. We'll just continue to monitor just the progress with this system. The thing is, it is pretty much, at least in terms of the model tracks, pretty good agreement with all the models. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of deviations there in terms of tracks, or in terms of intensity. On the other hand, this system is going to strengthen significantly. Looking for at least typhoon status. GFDN actually brings it up to a major typhoon, so we're going to continue to monitor the progress of this system. Of course, not a whole lot change here from the upper levels from what we've talked about. Just again, this system is developing quite a bit further east, so it's got a lot more time to develop, and that's just going to continue to help bring it west-northwesterly along the southwestern periphery of the subtropical high. Not a whole lot of difference there in the low-level winds. Do have some shear out ahead of this system, but that should not be a factor. Those winds are expected to weaken up a little bit. This system, as it's going to continue on, really should not be a factor for shear, and we'll get into this pool of relatively calm conditions. Taking a look at the surface plots out there, not a whole lot, although you can see the circulation very evident on the few observations we do have out there. Taking a look at Chuuk International, cloudy conditions, just gusty winds out of the east-southeast at 20 knots. Good visibility though. So this concludes the update on both Wilma and Haiyan. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor both systems over the next few days. You can continue to follow along on this analysis over at westernpacificweather.com. You can also follow along on Twitter and Facebook. And then you can join in on the conversation over at storm2k.org. I'll be posting some updates as well on my Twitter account at Senior Pepper. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day. Be safe. Take care.